We are joined today by Dr. Ali Abu Rama, President of the SVS, and Dr. Michelle Macaroon, Chair of the 2022 SVS Nominating Committee. At this time, I would like to turn the microphone over to Dr. Abu Rama for opening remarks and panelist introductions.
Thank you, Christine. Good evening, SVS member. Thank you for joining us for this important town hall, where you will get to know our candidate for Vice President and Secretary a little better as we launch the 2022 election immediately following this town hall. Membership is the livelihood of SVS. Our society is only as strong as commitment of our members, leaders, staff, and partners to work together to achieve our mission, advancing and optimizing the care of our patient as well as our specialty. Members' involvement and engagement is what drive SVS forward and keep us in a position to thrive in the future. Developing and sustaining a diverse group of engaged and talented volunteer leaders is the key to this future. As presidents of the SVS, I implore you to listen, learn, talk to colleagues, and vote in the SVS election to ensure your voice is heard on the direction of our society. There's no harder job in the SVS than that of the nominating committee, who must select candidates from an incredible pool of talent each year. I want to thank all of the members of the nominating committee for their service to our society. It's my greatest pleasure and honor to introduce the chair of the SVS nominating committee, our past presidents, and my colleague and friend, Dr. Michael Macaroon, who will be chairing the rest of the meeting. Dr. Macaroon.
Thank you, Dr. Abu Rama, for your outstanding leadership this year and for this introduction to the session tonight. The role of the SVS Nominating Committee, as outlined in our bylaws, is to select 2 candidates for each vacant officer position. This year, there will be 2 vacancies to fill in June, the positions of Vice President and Secretary. Starting after an open call that went on February 1st, nominations come to us from members at large, the nominating committee members, or self-nominations. The nominating committee is comprised of 7 voting members, including the 3 most immediate past presidents of the SVS, an at-large member elected directly by the membership, a representative elected by the SVS Strategic Board, the vice chair of the Community Practice Section, and the chair of the SVS Leadership Development Committee. We also have a liaison from the SVS Young Surgeons Committee. I want to thank all these members for their hard work this year. The nominating committee is tasked with selecting 2 candidates for each vacancy as required by our bylaws and reporting the outcome of the deliberation to the membership, which I am doing this evening. The committee also oversees the election, which will open immediately after this town hall, and will report the results at the June 18 annual business meeting in Boston. The eligibility criteria, qualifications, and time commitment are made transparent in the nomination process, including having been a member in good standing for at least 10 years and having served the society in a variety of roles. We also make sure that all potential nominees are aware of the substantial time commitment and accept this responsibility. In addition, we have developed and shared with the potential nominees a set of desired leadership criteria that the nominating committee uses in reviewing applicants outlined on this slide. This year, we received 15 nominations for vice president. 6 outstanding candidates accepted the nomination for the position and submitted all the documents required prior to the deliberation. We thank all of the nominees and encourage each of them to continue their aspiration for leadership positions in the SVS. Now I am pleased to introduce the candidates for Vice President of the SVS and have them join me for a brief introduction and question and answer session. The two candidates are Dr. Matt Eagleton from Massachusetts General Hospital and Dr. Amy Reed from the University of Minnesota. Congratulations, Matt and Amy, on your selection, and welcome for an informal chat at this town hall so that members get to know you a bit better prior to the election. I will be asking you a series of questions selected from several submitted by the membership. I will provide each of you an opportunity to answer, alternating between candidates with regard to the first response. Please keep your answers to no more than 2 minutes each. Let us start with you, Amy. And the first question, and then we will go to Matt. The election ballot that the SVS will be sending out includes background information on the two of you. But for members that may not know you well, please introduce yourself, your background, your career interests and goals, and why the position of SVS Vice President excites you.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having me on the town hall tonight as one of the vice presidential candidates. I grew up on a dairy farm in rural Wisconsin and graduated from the University of Wisconsin School of Medicine in Madison. I completed my general surgery residency and was the first female vascular surgery fellow at the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. I currently co-direct the Heart and Vascular Service Line for a 10-hospital mHealth Fairview system, and I'm chief of vascular surgery and endovascular surgery at the University of Minnesota. I live in Minneapolis with my husband, Dr. Jim Valentine. Clinically, I enjoy all aspects of vascular surgery, but am most passionate about trying to achieve our presence in vascular care in parts of the state that are rural in Minnesota and the Dakotas, but also trying to achieve better service and reaching out to our underserved populations using some of our virtual inpatient and outpatient vascular means. Perhaps my biggest joy comes from developing our faculty and our trainees. Take pride in trying to get our clinical faculty into different positions of passions of their own in leadership and research, and really trying to foster those faculty and friends and colleagues in the SVS to really be the best they can be. I've been honored to be the president of the Association of Program Directors for Vascular Surgery and your SVS secretary for the past 3 years. I believe that being the vice president really affords one of the most outstanding opportunities to have an impact on our unified and inclusivity in the SVS, no matter who you are or what type of practice you have. I've been blessed to be on several councils and committees, but I think that's only my beginning foundation, and I look forward to listening and ongoing learning that would be essential to become the vice president of the SVS. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amy. Matt, can we have your answer?
Thanks, Mac. I'm Matt Eagleton. I actually grew up in a rural community as well in central New York, off the shores of Lake Ontario. I did my undergrad medical school and general surgery residency at the University of Rochester, and then was able to escape Rochester and spend a couple of years at the University of Michigan getting my vascular surgery training. I went from there on to the Cleveland Clinic, where I did another fellowship in endovascular surgery, and then returned to the University of Michigan for a couple of years on faculty. I then returned to the Cleveland Clinic again and joined the faculty there, and had been there for approximately 12 years. During my time there, I rose to Vice Chair of Research and Education and served as the Program Director for 5 different training programs in vascular surgery, including a normal 0 and 5 and a 5+2 program for residents and fellows. About 5 years ago, we moved to Boston, and I joined the faculty at the Massachusetts General Hospital. I also took on the role as the director of what's called the Fireman Vascular Center, which is the vascular service line for the hospital. In that organization, I oversee the vascular care provided at Mass General from approximately 7 different specialties within the hospital, and entailing over 120 faculty that are involved in vascular care. My involvement in the SVS began over 20 years ago when I was a fellow. I loved vascular surgery and was part of the candidate membership when I was a fellow at the University of Michigan, and I've enjoyed my time serving this organization since then. I've been on numerous committees and councils, as has Amy. Most recently, I chaired the program committee and had the opportunity to help see the program committee change from an in-person meeting during the COVID crisis to a virtual meeting. It's been actually the thrill of my life to reach out and be able to interact with a whole number of vascular surgeons across the country, which I would not have been able to do otherwise. And I look forward to having the opportunity of serving you as a vice president. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you both for sticking to the time. Matt, you get to answer the second question first. Many of our members have different employment models and practice settings. What are your thoughts on how can the SVS offerings be better optimized to serve both community practice and academic interests?
I think the diversity of practice patterns within the SVS is one of the things we should be proud of. We sell our specialty as one where people can function in a whole variety of different clinical environments, from an in-office-based procedures, doing things like sclerotherapy, to tackling large open thoracic abdominal aortic aneurysm repairs at major medical centers. These practice styles are not easily divided, in my opinion, into just academics and community practice. Based on recent SVS survey, only about a third of our society identifies themselves as academic vascular surgeons, while the other 2/3 represent themselves as hospital employees, multi-specialty practice groups, and practice groups that were with or without affiliated residency and research programs, and solo practitioners. To meet the needs of these groups, we need to continue to engage each other to have productive conversation about what these needs are. I'm encouraged by the development of the sections within the SVS. These are really special interest groups that are provided a venue for organization and improved interaction with the SVS and the leadership of the SVS. I had the privilege of working with the first section that was developed, and that was for the Physician's Assistance Program, and was able to watch them through the development of that section and their continued involvement in their interactions with the SVS. The community practice section is a relatively new and probably one of the largest groups that will exist within the SVS. This offers members of this section an improved opportunity to have a voice and engage and educate the leadership on what the needs of this group are and what they require in order to support their growing practices. Many within this section are rising into leadership positions as well within the SVS, and this will only strengthen their voice and improve the current and future leadership's understanding of their needs. In the grand scheme of medical care providers, vascular surgery is a small voice. We have to look out for each other, and we have to provide each other with the opportunities to practice and hear what people need in order to make their practices better and the care for our patients better. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Amy?
Thank you. I think we need to understand, as Matt said, that while there are a variety of employment models and practice settings, in the end, we all share the common baseline of being vascular surgeons, no matter who our boss is or where we work. Currently, when we look at those who are in the SVS membership and those in community-based practice, we see many have ties to all of us, whether it's with practicing with fellows and residents or in various different employment models. And so no matter who employs you, when we look at the challenges that face all of us, including reimbursement and government relations, we need to find some sustainable ways so that each year we're not having to fight our annual fight end of the year on government relation cuts in our reimbursement. And while it seems if you look at our communication venues and look at who's fighting the fight, I think many would say that community practice is fighting that for all of us, just by nature of where they're practicing. And so I think we need to get together across the SVS, whether you're in academic practice or community practice, and come together to find some sustainable ways where we see some of the very common goals of trying to maintain our reimbursement and how we sustain our workforce for our patients. For those in private practice, I would say who better to understand and bond with you than the community practice section, where there are members of all different types of community practice there to go with you in the struggles and help all of us understand what the needs are. When we see that fewer of our younger members are going into community practice, I look at this as a way to really shine a light on community practice and have the section really be elevated to a level where they can really talk about a lot of the benefits of community practice and see how we can all come together with both the hospital-based, academic, and community practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. You get to go first for the next question. As DEI issues are becoming a center of focus everywhere, what have you personally done as a leader during the past 5 years to help address some of these issues?
Thank you. I think one of the things we talk about is inclusivity, and I think being intentional with diversity is essential for all of us as SVS members, whether you're doing this locally, regionally, or nationally. And I think it starts with each one of us really being intentional in this aspect of our membership. If we want to treat a diverse population, and we are charged day in and day out treating a diverse population in the United States, we need to reflect that population and look like the population of the United States. How can we increase our diversity of that practice and of those vascular surgeons if we're only reflecting what we look like in the SVS? If a student doesn't see someone in the SVS or in the SVS leadership looking like them, it will be difficult for them, I feel, to take that giant step forward to be a vascular surgeon when they're wondering where they're going to fit into our group. We each need to do our part. For myself, this past October, myself and Dr. Linda Harris proposed the women's section of the SVS to have a seat at the table. We joined the other sections of the young surgeon sections and the community practice. Also, as secretary over the last 2 years while I've chaired the communication committee, I've had an opportunity to work with not only a diverse group of individuals, whether it be from ages, generations, gender, background, to highlight some of the members in our SVS midst and really highlight them in the Pulse, in Connect, social media, to try to have our community of SVS members, but also beyond that, see who our members are and to highlight them and showcase them. I think when we look at 22% of our women, 22% of the SVS membership as women, I'm honored to take a look back behind me and see that every decade of those behind me, there are more and more women and more underrepresented minorities. So I look forward to continuing that work as vice president. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Matt?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to become invested in diversity education and inclusion over the past several years in a variety of different ways. One within the SVS was my role as program chair. Through that leadership position, we promoted diversity in the organization and implementation of the vascular annual meeting. In the recent VAM programming, we included sessions directly specifically towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. We developed a new category for abstract submission related to DEI and DEI-related research. We worked as a group to ensure that we avoided manels in our assigned moderators. In addition, as was Amy, we were able to help review the SVS DEI task force recommendations that were published in the Journal of Vascular Surgery. And as a member of the executive board, we helped to draft our responses and develop a plan to address the recommendations of that group, instituting impactful change within the SVS. Similarly, I helped to organize a meeting called Critical Issues America in Aortic Endografting. We had been called on to help diversify our speakers and moderators with regard to diversity of race and gender. In doing so, we recognize the paucity of diversity in those that have developed into global leaders in aortic care. I think I can speak for our organizational group that all of us were interested and invested in promoting diversity of race and gender into the development of aortic experts through the recruitment, mentoring, and promotion of these young, able surgeons. And we greatly look forward to their contributions as leaders in this field, and we'll call on them to help mentor a future diverse group who succeeds them. Historically, at my home institution has struggled with the perception that it lacked diversity, and it's making great efforts to change this. I work as part of a department and institutional effort to improve DEI within the Mass General programs, and I'm proud to say that our division is comprised of an increasingly diverse group of vascular surgeons and trainees who I very much enjoy mentoring and promoting for their careers. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. You go first for the next one. Some of our members remain interested somehow in an independent board of vascular surgery. What do you think is the role of the SVS in this area?
In my opinion, the SVS is the main organizational representation of vascular surgery, and so I think it's very important that the SVS plays a leadership role on this topic. I've heard passionate commentary both for and against the development of an independent board again. I don't know where the membership stands on this topic, I do know that a relatively recent survey about what membership thought was important topics for the SVS to address did not rate this as a high item on their list, but it did make the list. And so I don't think we can ignore it and shouldn't ignore it. I'll admit I do not know where I stand firmly on this topic. I think there is some truth on both sides and things that we can improve. I don't think that the establishment of an independent board, though, solves many of vascular surgery's issues, especially with topics such as vascular surgery awareness and branding. It's an organization that is directed towards credentialing of vascular surgeons. I would be in support of querying the membership as to whether they felt this was an important topic for us to address now. If it is, we should provide an informational sessions for them with frank discussions and debate from both camps about this topic. I think we should also hear openly from the American Board of Surgery and perhaps input from an independent group, whether that is another specialty that's gone through this process or a consulting organization that can help us develop our future plans. Once those educational sessions have occurred, then it would be worth re-asking our membership to see if they continue to think whether this was an important topic for us to address. And if it's not, we should stop pursuing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Amy?
Thank you. First, I think it's important to recognize that the independent board movement, I think, really helped spawn energy and task the Vascular Surgery Board of the American Board of Surgery to become independent. And I say that because they do function independently in the American Board of Surgery. I think it's crucial also to understand what the VSB does. They certify surgeons. They do this by giving tests, written, oral, as we've all taken, and maintenance of certification evaluations. The VSB does an outstanding job in this area, and the VSB functions independently using the American Board of Surgery machinery for giving tests. It's also critically important, I think, to understand what the VSB does not do. The VSB does not fight our battles at the Hill, doesn't fight our local battles in turf areas, and it doesn't really help brand us in vascular surgery with regard to when you're talking to your hospital CEO or dean about the presence of vascular surgery and our benefits of being present in the hospitals, as so eloquently outlined in Dr. Powell's paper. While we have remaining opportunities for independence, when I was chair of the, or president of the APDVS, and the executive committee and myself worked to change the RRC's thoughts on an independent RRC for vascular surgery. While that was not approved, there were certain things that I think we could take another run at that. The AMA and the American College of Surgeons, as well as the VSB, submit names of vascular surgeons to the RRC. And while there may have been some politics as to whether the AMA would change to allow the SVS, say, to submit a member, there's possibilities of working with all three of those. And I think now in the age of virtual meetings, one of the ideas that the RRC had to not do it was because of costs. So I think there's a real opportunity to use some of these concepts going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. You go first for the last question. And it relates to workforce. How can we address the workforce shortages in vascular surgery, and what should the strategic short and long-term plans be for the SVS?
Thank you. Well, in 1996, many may remember that Dr. Jim Stanley published an article in the JVS highlighting the impending shortages of vascular surgery. And these were based on some major assumptions that were somewhat hampered by the thought that our number of output for trainees and our workforce would be static. And so what happened is that when we look at if the workforce that we're putting out, the new graduates, if we look at that being static and trying to keep up with the retirement of baby boomers, that there was a perceived and expected shortage. I would suggest Dr. Stanley's publication helped us get to thinking about the workforce, and these assumptions were changed a little bit when we looked at more of the recent information and the recent census. And what we've actually seen in the last 2 decades is actually a doubling of our trainee output, meaning we went in 2000 to roughly 85 to 90 graduates every year to now in this past year up to almost 190 per year. I see how we go forward with the, in the long term, certainly with more and more programs, both freestanding vascular surgery fellowships and integrated residencies. And we can see by the output of the numbers of graduates we're having that we're making headway in that in the long term. But I would hearken everyone to sort of pay attention to an article that came out of Ohio State and Dr. Michael Go in 2020 that had some updated numbers and looked at whether were things really becoming a significant shortage. And what they actually found is that the numbers showed that really by the 2030s to 2040s, that shortfall or shortage would be resolved. I think in the interim, there are a lot of different aspects of technology and virtual care and alignment with some of our rural hospitals with them allowing us to participate in care and gaining trust will be a great way to sort of remedy our situation in the short term. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Matt?
My quick answer to this, Mac, is I don't know. I think this is one of the hardest things that we have to address. The other quick answer is to expand our training programs and recruit more students and residents to go into vascular surgery and to develop more programming. And we've been doing that. And as Amy said, we are improving our ability to potentially meet the needs of the United States with regard to vascular surgery volume. Amy, we're both doing the same research on this, and we both saw Dr. Go's article. And he had us being able to meet the demands for vascular surgery not until 2050. I hope I'm retired in 2050 and not still practicing vascular surgeon, but I hope we have vascular surgeons available to take care of me. And certainly we can shorten this time period if we continue to add additional training programs. This does nothing though for us in the short term, and I don't think that just increasing the number of vascular surgeons solves some of our workforce problems that we face. Many programs struggle with providing care at all of the healthcare organizations that want vascular care. They want it 24/7, but they don't have the vascular volume to provide a full-time vascular surgeon at these organizations. And when they do, if they get a single vascular surgeon there, how do we support that lifestyle of somebody having to be on call 24/7 in order to provide these single institutions with 24/7 vascular care? That leads to job dissatisfaction and burnout. Some of the other models that have been developed to address this are to have itinerant vascular surgery groups. We did this in Cleveland, where we each took time spending a week at a hospital and provide them with 24 vascular care. Having experienced, that's not a good model either. I don't have the right, I don't have a specific plan on how to fix this. I wish I could. Our group here in Mass General, we provide care at hospital systems throughout the region of New England. It's tough and we need to do something to fix it. And I'm happy to listen to anybody that has ideas on how to make this better. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you, Amy, for participating in this town hall and giving us some of your opinion regarding these issues. I thank you both for your leadership and your commitment to the SVS. And now we move on to the secretary candidates. So this year, the nominating committee received 12 nominations for secretary. 7 remarkable individuals who are very talented accepted the nomination and submitted all the required material. We thank all of the nominees for their service to the SVS so far and encourage them to continue to aspire to be part of the SVS leadership in years to come. Now, I am pleased to introduce the candidates for Secretary of the SVS and to have them join me for a brief introduction and Q&A. The 2 candidates are Dr. Kelly Brown from the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee and Dr. William Schutz from the Texas Vascular Association in Plano. Congratulations, Kelly and Bill, and welcome to the town hall for the candidates for secretary. As with the previous segment, I will ask a series of questions and provide an opportunity for each candidate to answer, alternating between candidates with regard to who answers first. Please keep your answers to no more than 2 minutes like we did before. Kelly, let's start with you, and then we will go to Bill. The election ballot of the SVS will be sending out will include background information on the 2 of you, but please briefly introduce yourself, your background, and your career interests and goals to the membership.
Thank you, Mac, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to the SVS membership. I grew up in southeastern Wisconsin and went to medical school at the Medical College of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. I did my general surgery residency at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and then was the first female fellow at the Medical College of Wisconsin with Dr. Jonathan Town. I then did a Robert Wood Johnson Clinical Scholars Fellowship at the University of Chicago before joining the faculty at the Medical College of Wisconsin in 2002, where I have since risen to the position of tenured professor in the Division of Vascular and Endovascular Surgery, and where I enjoy a broad clinical practice, and currently serve as the division chief at the Zablocki VA Medical Center and the program director of the Vascular Surgery Fellowship. I'm the immediate past president of the Midwestern Vascular Surgical Society and the rising chair of the Vascular Surgery Board. In my service for the SVS, I've been honored to serve on the membership committee, the Women's Leadership Committee, the VA Surgeons Committee, and the Valuation Committee. I worked to develop the resident and fellow program in 2019. Additionally, I have served on the Wellness Committee and was fortunate to work on and publish data around gender-specific incidents of burnout in our members. I served on the Postgraduate Education Committee for 7 years and chaired that committee for 3 years. I've also served on the Program Committee, the Education Council, and recently finished my term as the inaugural chair of the Education Committee, where I helped to develop and go live with the SVS Education Portal. Finally, I currently serve on the SVS ACS Standards Committee, working to operationalize the SVS ACS Vascular Verification Program. Throughout this extensive service to our society, I have become passionate about providing value to our members at all stages of their careers by providing education and support for all aspects of the vascular surgeon's career in both the clinical and non-clinical realms. I believe my strengths lie in the ability to listen, to understand diverse viewpoints, foster consensus, and to accomplish what I've set out to do. I feel that the position of secretary is a natural progression of my extensive educational work with the SVS and look forward to continuing my service. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Bill?
Thank you, Dr. Macaroon. I'd like to thank you and the nominating committee for all of your hard work that went into selecting the candidates. And I would like to thank you for your vote of confidence in selecting me as one of those candidates for the position of secretary. And finally, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Brown, Dr. Reed, and Dr. Eagleton on their selection. Regardless of the outcome of the election, I know that the SVS is going to be in great hands in the upcoming year. So my story is I was raised in a rural area, unincorporated in Florida as well. It sounds like that's a common theme that many of us came from a rural background. I left Florida to go to the Johns Hopkins University for my undergraduate degree, and then did my first tour of duty in Texas at the Baylor College of Medicine back when Dr. DeBakey, Dr. Crawford, and Dr. Cooley were still very visible and very prominent in Houston at the Texas Medical Center. However, I left there to go to the University of Alabama at Birmingham for my general surgery training. And after 5 years there, I returned for my second tour in Texas to do my fellowship at Baylor University Medical Center at the program that Dr. Jesse Thompson founded. I was very fortunate because Dr. Thompson, although he had retired due to vision problems, was still around and still able to educate us and serve as a role model for how we should approach vascular surgery. I went into private practice in 1991, and then in 1997, I founded the Texas Vascular Associates group that I am now in with 5 other vascular surgeons. While expansion and growth was not our business plan at the time, we've now grown to be a group composed of 16 vascular surgeons, 2 advanced nurse practitioners serving 19 hospitals in 6 counties. I've been able to serve the Society of Vascular Surgery in numerous roles since then, and have been on the executive board for 3 years and the strategic board of directors for 5 years, as well as numerous other positions on the foundation board and other committees and task forces. And it's my honor to be selected as a potential secretary for the society.
Thank you, Bill. You go first for the next question. What role can the secretary of the SVS play in improving relationships between members of different backgrounds and opinions regarding practice patterns and markers of quality of care?
That's a great question. And as many of us have seen recently, there has been some dialogue on SVS Connect and perhaps even on some other platforms that I haven't seen, demonstrating the divisiveness that exists within our society. You know, even though we're a relatively small specialty of a few thousand people, we still have divisiveness. And in my opinion, that is one of the biggest threats to our society and our specialty survival, is this type of divisiveness and infighting. We need to be respectful and unified in our mission, and we need to be respectful of our colleagues and peers as well. You know, every surgeon practices in a unique situation, every single one of us, whether we're in a large city or a small city, in an academic role or a non-academic role, whether we're employed or independent or in a small group or a large group. Every single one of us has a unique practice situation. And we have to admit that each of us cannot entirely understand another person's situation. So what works in Palo Alto for delivery of vascular care may not work in Wichita. So currently the secretary is the chair of the communications committee. And this is the venue through which all SVS communication travel. The secretary should be the role model for how we communicate with each other and should promote kind, respectful, and inclusive communications. When differences develop, the secretary has an opportunity to step in and be a peacemaker and move us all back in the same direction, as we try to fulfill our mission to serve our patients and our specialty. There are a lot more communication tools available now than ever before to accomplish this, many different platforms, and the most powerful one may be social media. And we certainly need to double down on our efforts to use social media to heal our society when rifts occur and create unification among our members when they are rifted with other members.
Thank you, Bill. Kelly?
Thank you. And I have to agree with Bill that the divisiveness within our organization is really unfortunate and not very productive. The secretary of the SVS's role is primarily one of communication, conducting, receiving, and facilitating communication. And the secretary can and should conduct and facilitate conversations among the SVS members around these divisive topics and bring different opinions and beliefs of the SVS members to the executive board. I feel it's the role of the secretary to establish communication between the various SVS member stakeholders and the executive board and amongst each other. This means the means to create this communication involves reaching out to constituencies, understanding their priorities, and establishing regular communication with them. In addition, as secretary, I would plan to frequently monitor and follow up topics discussed on the SVS Connect and other social media to reach out to those members that expressed an interest to continue a dialogue around topics of interest. In addition, as a member of the executive board of the SVS, I would advocate that as decisions are made around strategic plans, standards, educational programs, outreach, and other endeavors, that we have voices weighing in from a diverse population of members, including background, practice types, geographic location, as well as gender and ethnic diversity. Certainly, around the topics of practice patterns and markers of quality, I would think that the executive board should ensure that the relevant committees within both the Quality Council and the Clinical Practice Council include members from diverse backgrounds, practice settings, and geographic locations. I feel that I'm an approachable, inclusive, and open-minded individual who's able to understand issues from many sides, and I want all of our members to feel invested and well represented in our society. I would plan to initiate and participate in an ongoing dialogue with our members to facilitate this investment. And finally, I would do my best to ensure that any communications coming from the SVS are factual, unbiased, and inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. You go first for the next one. How can the SVS bring awareness of vascular surgery opportunities, careers in surgery, and interest in vascular disease in low-income and geographically disadvantaged communities?
Improving awareness around opportunities and careers and interest in vascular surgery in low-income and geographically disadvantaged communities is obviously very critically important. And the SVS has started the work by forming the DEI committee, which has published the SVS preliminary data and made several recommendations around how to improve the diversity, the first steps of which to accurately measure and report our membership diversity and to encourage the VSB and the APDVS to do so as well, are already underway. The SVS needs to continue to develop a strategic plan around the goal of improving diversity in our workforce. Some of the crucial aspects of such a plan should include outreach in the form of interest groups, skills sessions, and workshops aimed at underrepresented and disadvantaged medical students and residents. In addition, training, application assistance, leadership seminars, and longitudinal mentorship opportunity need to be supported. And finally, travel assistance scholarships to our meeting is an ongoing program that should be supported and increased to allow those from underrepresented and disadvantaged populations to travel and network at the annual meeting. Of course, we cannot attract underrepresented minority students if we do not have any diversity in our leadership. Increasing our diversity is important and requires effort to support and develop leadership skills in our diverse members. I was a recipient of the Women's Leadership Training Grant in its inaugural year. This was a priceless opportunity, and I probably wouldn't be sitting here tonight without that experience and support. I believe a similar program should be instituted for our members who are underrepresented, and thoughtful development of this program with the DEI committee should be undertaken to provide support of our underrepresented colleagues to ascend to leadership positions at their own institutions and within the SVS. It's critically important for the SVS to have diverse leadership, and to accomplish that, we need intentional leadership development every step along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Bill?
Thank you, Mac. You know, it's interesting. When I first read this question, I thought it was a diversity question, but I read it again and I thought I came at it from a different angle. I looked at this more like a question about how can we get better vascular care delivery into underserved areas. And I think you can read the question either way. So I'm going to answer it the second way as to how I feel the SVS can improve the vascular care delivery in underserved areas. And I think we're well positioned to go in that direction. The Population Health Task Force has just completed its one-year mission to create a white paper, and it has now been transformed into a committee. I think the first task for that committee should be a mandate to identify these areas around the country that are starving for vascular care, and then to prioritize these as to how we should, approach these from a top to bottom role in trying to improve care into these areas. Now, the good news is that the foundation, the SVS Foundation, is starting its VISTA program, Vascular Service to America. And there are several pilot projects out there that are looking at this as well. Misty Humphreys, Joe Mills, and Kelly Kempe in Oklahoma are all looking at different models and methods of how to get care into disadvantaged areas where there are no vascular surgeons. And I think combining these two groups can help accomplish this mission of really providing care into areas that don't have vascular care and don't have vascular awareness and need education. And we can create collaborations among existing vascular surgeons in the area and leverage them to get that care in their own communities and in their own areas that they may not be aware of that are being underserved. And so it's interesting how we looked at the question differently. So I think we got two questions out of one.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. I will not tell you which way I meant it. The way.
Thanks for not sharing that.
Bill, you go next. So how can the SVS build value for fully or partially retired members so that they can stay engaged and active in the specialty in the society?
Well, I don't think we'll have as much discrepancy in our answers over this question. I think it's pretty straightforward. We look at our surgeons that are slowing down or retiring, and they have 30, 40, sometimes 50 years of experience. And with that experience comes a lot of wisdom as well. This is a lot of talent that basically just kind of goes away. And this is an opportunity. I think this is an opportunity for the SVS, and we should grab it. We need to take these people that still want to be interested, still want to be engaged, and take all of their experience, their wisdom, their knowledge, and really try to pull it back into the society in a way that it will work. There's one way to do that. There's several ways, but one way would be to start creating on selected committees a specific position for someone that is retired. Where that committee would benefit from someone that has that much experience. And I can give you some examples. One would be like the community practice committee, the PAC. The PAC needs lots of manpower. We need 50 surgeons in 50 states. And what better way to get it than to get some of our senior members active in the PAC? Same with government relations. Those two are side by side. And another area would be wellness. These are people that have not burned out. They've got a secret somehow. Maybe they can share that with us and help us maintain our wellness. We could have a program for mid-career surgeons and late career surgeons from our retired surgeons as to how to prepare for retirement. And we can create networking platforms for our retired surgeons so they still stay connected with each other and connected with us. They have more time on their hands than the rest of us and a lot of time to network. We could have journal clubs, book clubs. There's all kinds of ways we could continue to keep them engaged, and we need to.
Thank you, Bill. Kelly?
Thank you. Bill, great minds think alike, because I completely agree and had a lot of the same ideas you did. We definitely need to develop educational and mentorship opportunities for this segment of our membership. And as chair of the education committee, I, along with the rest of the committee, have been developing educational strategies across the career continuum. And we started discussing programming for the near to retired or retired members. Educational programs around how to transition to retirement, how to switch from investing for growth to investing for income, how to manage ergonomic issues as we age, and ways to transition your practice towards retirement are initial thoughts that we're considering. I think having an Ask the Expert style program around what I wish I knew before I retired from those members who've already retired would also be well received among many of our members. And this allows both for engagement and participation of the retired members and passes down those hard-earned lessons rather than losing them. As a specialty, given our workforce needs, we need to consider how we can help our members continue to be clinically active for longer if they wish to. So developing educational and support programs for late career surgeons is imperative. And finally, there's an amazing amount of knowledge in our near retired and retired members, and we need to appreciate and make use of that. Asking them to serve on committees, as Bill suggested, particularly asking for their mentorship for students, residents, and younger members, as well as asking for their participation in the medical student and resident simulation and other education programs, provides an opportunity to pass some of that knowledge down, and will continue to engage those members in the society and the specialty through retirement. There's also a dearth of mentorship of mid-career surgeons, and I think engaging the retired surgeons to help mentor those surgeons in the latter half of their career could be invaluable. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. You go first for the last question. How should the SVS attract and engage our young colleagues to increase our membership and the satisfaction of younger generations?
Well, I think the way to increase membership and satisfaction amongst early career vascular surgeons will come by continuing to provide value and engagement. The recent educational needs assessment conducted by the SVS was the first step in figuring out what our membership really wants from the SVS, and multiple committees are using this data to put in place strategies for increasing value and engagement. The vascular surgeon's relationship with the SVS starts with the medical student programming, which is quite robust, and the resident and fellow educational offerings, which continue to grow. And we need to ensure that it continues on into early and mid-career. Our organization needs to learn to leverage social media and technological advances to provide our education to our members in an easy-to-use and convenient fashion. The development of the SVS app, which I believe is in the planning stages, should really help provide a mobile-friendly platform to engage early career members. From an educational standpoint, the younger members would like educational programming around clinical topics provided in shorter, mobile-friendly formats, such as podcasts and microlearning. Additional non-clinical topics that need support for this group include contract negotiation, billing and coding, practice development, and wellness, amongst others. These educational offerings should be coupled with CME credits, which was made clear really from the recent needs assessment. Additionally, hands-on workshops and simulations on advanced techniques and newer technologies should continue to be pursued. These types of courses not only provide opportunity for learning, but also for networking and forming friendships and mentorships, which really is something that our members value. From an engagement standpoint, outreach to and inclusion of early career members within our society structure will continue to help our organization stay relevant and will create opportunities for engagement. As always, inclusivity increases strength in an organization, and the SVS needs to continue to strive for this regarding all levels of diversity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bill?
Thank you, Dr. Macaroon. Obviously, members are the lifeblood of our society, and we need to recruit 100% of our trainees into the society. And this question kind of has two parts, right? How to attract, and then how to engage. So let's go over how to attract. My fellow today was telling me that she likes her information to be pushed to her. She doesn't like to go look for it. And she goes, "This is my generation." And what that tells me is, you know, the SVS can have a great platform, but our younger surgeons want us to push information to them. And we already do that to an extent, but I think we need to increase our efforts to push information to them. Well, what kind of information should we push? Well, obviously the education is a huge component, but there's a lot of other things that the younger surgeons are interested in. They're looking for practice advice, how interview tips, how to evaluate a contract. They're looking for jobs. And obviously they want a good social media platform for networking, perhaps one that's more focused on them at their point in their career than on old people like me. So I think we need to develop a good program to start pushing information out on a regular basis. There's a lot of different ways we could do this. It can be cut and it can be customized like Doximity does it. And we need to put together these programs that they are looking for. We already have the Moat Symposium from Dr. Sampson, that's entitled Everything That You Weren't Taught in Your Vascular Fellowship. We need to expand that, get more of the trainees involved in it and the young surgeons. And then we need to engage them. They need to be part of this. They need to help us build these platforms. They need to help create the social media materials we're pushing out. And lastly, we need to give them a town hall. We've had numerous town halls, but we haven't had a single town hall that comes from our trainees. We have audible bleeding, but in my opinion, they should have a town hall.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. Thank you, Kelly, Matt, and Amy, all for participating tonight and giving the membership a glimpse of who you are and what your approach will be to the leadership of the society. The online election for Vice President and Secretary will open following the conclusion of tonight's town hall, which has been recorded and will be available for viewing for those not able to attend tonight or those who have been so enamored by some of the answers that they would like to go back and listen to you again. All vote eligible members will be receiving an email with voting instructions at 8 p.m. Central this evening. Voting will remain open for 10 days until 5 o'clock Central on Friday, June the 3rd. Members will receive multiple e-blasts and reminders throughout the week. All active and senior members of the SVS in good standing are eligible to vote. If you try to vote and find that you are not eligible, please contact the SVS staff at governance@vascularsociety.org. This will be in the instructions. Do not forget that in addition to the 2 officer positions, there are 2 bylaw referendum changes. Please vote on these as well, as you will not be able to submit your vote until all the selections are made. Candidate information and full explanation of the bylaws are included in the online ballot. Thank you all for submitting questions and attending tonight's webinar. With that, I will declare the town hall adjourned and the election open. And thank you all and see you all in Boston to announce who won the elections. Good night, everybody.